We are in an era right now, which is the era of 2025 to 2032. Pretty much from the last 12,000 year cycle to 2012 was one era. That's a lot of time. To now, this tiny short little period, but this is where we sharpen our skills. Ascension may happen.
But why, as creator beings, is it so important for us to hold our bodies, our physical bodies, with us while going through this ascension?
What we wanted to do was hold the memory within us so that we could be like living libraries, living resources that could tell others from living experience from a 5D perspective.
If we rush ascension, what do we miss?
As we go through this process, we're going to realize how beautiful it actually is to just be here without a stopwatch. To drop that rush, because the rush comes from the mental realm. That's the false matrix responding to ascension.
Hello family, before we dive into today's episode, I want to share with you something that I've been working on for a very long time. This isn't just another idea or experiment. It's something that I believe will change everything within this community. For months, I've been building something behind the scenes, something that I believe is missing at the core from everything that we do here. I can't say much yet, but if you've ever resonated with any of the conversations on this podcast and you feel like there's a deeper layer into all of this stuff, you need to be at my first ever live event. It's happening very soon, and I want you to be part of this very sacred moment. You can hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen right now, and I will see you inside. Enjoy the episode, and I'm excited for the evolution that we're co-creating together. Kerry K, welcome back on Just Happen. I'm going to start off a little bit differently than we used to, because I know that every single Friday in your community, you ask, how good can this get? So I'm going to ask you the same question for humanity, for the world right now. How good can this get?
I really want to know. I really want to know the answer to that question. I want to be in that crowd when we all find out together. I want to see the smile on everybody's face when they realize, oh my gosh, spiritual awakening and everything that I had to go through, all the dark nights of the soul, all the timeline shifts, that was not an ending. That was not me breaking. That was not me failing. That was not me being weak. That was the beginning of an unfathomable light, an unfathomable bliss coming into our reality, preparing us to forsake the old that we had been programmed by and programmed to respond to, and acclimating not to the new, but to the truth of who we are. How good can this get? That question should fill everybody listening with exuberance. It should fill every cell of your body with the memory of what potential actually feels like, because we've been living in limitation. So imagine that limitation, lack mindset that says, I don't know if I am enough. I don't know if I have enough, shifting into the exuberance for welcoming the next day, the next moment, the next event, the next breath. We've been living in fear without even knowing how much fear we've been living in. And it's only when we release ourselves from the grip of that fear that we're actually going to recognize and realize, whoa, that was a dense, dark place that we were in. Where we are right now is that. And yet, even in the density, even in the darkness, we still get to ask the question, how good can this get? And just asking opens us up to a higher timeline. That's why we ask that question every single Friday, as if we've never asked it before, as if this is the very first time we're contemplating it, because it brings in a new wave of that higher alignment that we are headed to right now.
It's almost like that question opens us up to perceive the world anew and into this new earth that we're coming back into. I say coming back because we've known that we've been here before. And you've talked about that these 12,000 year cycles humanity goes through a cataclysm. Before, they've had cataclysms of water, of fire, of earth. The one that we're going through right now, you say, is of ether.
Yeah.
What does that really mean?
This is going to be, what we're headed to is going to be, and is already, a cataclysm of ether. So exactly as you said, every 12,000 years, Earth goes through a mini cycle. And that mini cycle sees the destructions that we don't remember at the linear level, but the cellular consciousness remembers from that ancestral carryover, or of the trauma of the flood, or the great volcanoes, or the great disasters, the great sinking of Atlantis. We remember this inside the cells of our being. And something in us knows that all of nature knows that this earth and this time is the brink of the next 12,000 year cycle. But it's no ordinary 12,000 year cycle. This 12,000 year cycle is a grand culmination of all of the previous cycles that have marked the duration of the false matrix. So this is not a collapse, it's the collapse of all of those collapses. And it's kind of, you could think of it as a complete reboot and a complete dissolving of an old and a restructuring of the new. And how we go through this, the initiation phase that carries us from one world to the next, is so different than anything we've ever gone through before. This one is ether. Ether, of course, is spirit. We could think of it as air and energy. Ether is the mechanism that allows us to traverse this grand cyclical handover, this great shift of the ages, and maintain the body that we're in now, but upgraded into the light body. We can call it the fifth dimensional crystalline self. So it is not an ending, it is a restructuring and a rebirthing. That's what ether allows for. All of the other cycles were endings in the sense that most of the population was wiped out. The ether cycle is where your soul gets aligned to the realm that you will next populate. For the vast majority of people on planet Earth right now, that realm is exactly where we stand right now, planet Earth. But it's a fifth dimensional planet Earth. There will be some beings who populate our planet right now who won't make the great shift. And it's not because they're losers and they failed and they didn't know how. It's because for whatever their soul reasons are, they're still wanting to go through another ascension cycle. So they will do exactly that. They will go through another ascension cycle instead of now staying on planet Earth, staying in this body, but elevating into a light body version of the current one. They're going to take a veering off or a splitting off and populate another planet. That planet that they go populate will be very much like we started this life on this planet. You started the life without remembering your language from before, your name from before, your pets from before, your mother, your father, your brother, your history. You came in with amnesia. So those who veer off will go into a new life with amnesia. Those who stay here will stay with their memory intact, your name intact, your body still intact, but an upgraded, elevated version. So this is what ether does for us. Ether literally lifts us into our light self, our lighter bodied vehicle. And it is an elevation. And we're being asked right now to step into the consciousness that matches the realm, the consciousness that matches the vibratory tone of harmony, the frequency of unity. We're being asked if we can accommodate and integrate those light fields into this existing body now. And it is through doing that that we purge out the density, the old stories, the old addictions, the old pain. We're purging all of that out literally on a daily basis as we align to more light, and then more light, and then more light. And every time we think, it's like taking in an inhale and you think, I can't take in more, but you exhale and the next one's there. You exhale, the next one's there. That's our everyday life right now. And I share this because so many people over the years have said to me, nothing's happening. When is Ascension? When is it going to happen? Why don't I see a change? If you don't see the change in you, it's not happening. Then you will look at the world and you will say with cynicism and with resentment and with bitterness, you'll say, nothing's happening. And it's not because nothing's happening, because every blade of grass, every molecule of air, every atom, every fiber of your being knows that we are at this grand culmination event. We are in the great shift of the ages now, today, and every breath aligns us to that new realm that we're about to step into. And when we do, if I can talk about that for a little while, the realm that we're stepping into, there are many names for that realm. Some people call it 5D, New Earth, True Earth, Eden, whatever your name is. We're headed to a place that cannot be defined by words. So that's why I say the name is not even important, because we're moving back into our higher state of consciousness, which is not a mental realm. So we're going to be a lot less analytical. We're going to be a lot less stuck in the head. In fact, not stuck in the head at all. We're going to be set out of the mental prison and re-engaging with the multidimensionality of the cosmic self, the true self that we are. And we're going to be living on this earth, but in a renewed form. My word for it is Eden. And Eden is a much bigger planet than Earth was. And when I say this, I understand people scratch their heads and they say, but how does that work? Because she's saying we stay on the same planet. It's a 5D version of the same planet, yet it's bigger. Yes. What we're going to realize is that we populated a tiny portion of the realm that we call Earth. We populated a tiny space because that's what the false matrix always was. A tiny fragment of the true self, of you and me and all of us, including the Earth itself. So once we break out of or transcend that false matrix, and we enter true Earth, the multidimensional landscape that we originally came from, it's as if the curtains part. It's as if the landscape opens up for us, and suddenly there is just open fields, open expanse, open space, new continents showing up, greater oceans than we could ever have imagined, trees that are so massive they make our current day trees look like little sprouts, mountains, skies, landscapes that we can't even imagine. We are going to feel as if we're discovering an entirely new planet, because in essence, that's what Eden is. We've bandied this word about New Earth. We've bandied the word about, and in a sense, it's become so diluted that we don't even understand what we're saying anymore when we talk about New Earth. So imagine that greater expanse. Imagine breathing in crystalline air. Imagine walking through the world, but you don't feel heavy. You don't feel clunky. You don't feel like you're stomping. You feel like you're gliding. You feel as if you're walking through a watery environment, a watery realm that you can breathe in. And I say watery because that Eden that we're stepping into, its construct, the air that we breathe in, is crystalline. And when we breathe crystalline consciousness in, it feels like a liquid light. And it's smooth, which is exactly how harmonious we feel. We feel that smoothness on the inside. We feel that smoothness in our relationships. We feel it inside our mental reasoning and rationalizing. We feel that flow, that divine crystalline flow in everything. The air is different. The way we walk through the air is different. The way your feet grace the soil is different. The way you interact with nature is different. The way it feels to be you is different. The way you perceive the person next to you is different. And so it's a life within a life. And I can describe it for days and days, but nothing will prepare you for the grandeur and the magnificence that you will witness as you walk into that Eden. That Eden has always existed. It's not new. It's just true. It's a realm that we've been locked out of for a very, very long time. And it's kind of like getting passage back home. That's what it's going to feel like for us. And when we're there and we're breathing in that air, you're going to feel how your lungs go, oh, that's what I was waiting for. You're going to feel everything welcoming you home, and the memory comes back. The memory is restored. It all comes flooding in. Then it all makes sense. Then you don't need a healer and a soothsayer and a teacher to tell you who you are and where you are and convince you that you're safe. Your knowingness is activated. Your telepathy is back online. You don't need a doctor. You don't need an authority. You become your rightful custodian of your own energy field. So you direct yourself. You live in that realm of self-directorship. And what would that even look like for us who are so conditioned to an authority world? We call it order. That's not order, that's control. We've been living in a very controlled realm with authorities having control over us and then us wanting to have control over our thoughts. And so we've been mimicking the external world and the way the external world has treated us by treating ourselves in exactly the same way. That whole paradigm breaks as we move into this great shift of the ages, the new ethereal realm. We are beings of ether. The cosmos is ether. This is just us returning to our multidimensionality.
I had a pretty big epiphany recently, which was I used to say that we're creating and building the new earth. And then I had an epiphany that was we're not creating it nor building it. We are revealing it, which is much of what you're saying. If consciousness is a hologram, then the more our consciousness can receive more light, the hologram has to change. The planet we live on has to change. And we're busy exploring the stars. And what you're saying is we should explore more about this realm and what this earth and this planet has to offer. What do you think are some other things that will be revealing themselves in the new realm that we'll be able to cohabit with in this ascension that we're going through?
One of the things that I've seen and have loved and always looked so forward to is what we would call, in our earthly language, we would call it a healing bed, but it's nothing like the med beds or the healing technologies that we think, no matter how futuristic our mindscape is, what I've seen, and I've had many glimpses of that Eden and our return to Eden. But one of them, this was many, many years ago, was watching us human beings go to what we may call a healer. But it's not a healer because you're sick. It's not a healer because you're broken. It's not a healer because you're fractured in some way. What it is a being that you go to who simply supports the recalibration of your field. And through the recalibration of your field, the body youths instead of aging. So the body retains a level of youth, which we might say around about the prime for women, which is around about the age of 29. For men, the prime for men is around about 32. That's us at our optimal. So that's, first of all, what we would look like if you were to envision that civilization that we're becoming. We wouldn't see old. We wouldn't be old. We might be hundreds, even thousands of years old, and we would still look like 29 to 32-year-old beings. And these healers that help facilitate the recalibration of our body from time to time, they allow for a resurgence of pure potential, pure light, pure life force, universal consciousness to come directly into the body. But by that time, our body is so good at absorbing and integrating and allowing and realizing how to let that in and not fight against it, not push against it. Because right now we still do that. We still do. We unconsciously, unknowingly, unwittingly push against the incoming light codes, and then we get ascension symptoms. That's where ascension symptoms come from. It's our physical resistance to the incoming light. Light isn't harmful. Light is healing. Light is light, not dense. The density that we experience and call ascension symptoms is merely the body's response to the incoming light. So when we are in our Eden state, the body so seamlessly breathes in, soaks in, absorbs, integrates the higher light frequencies. And it's kind of like it's like a 0 point. It's like returning to that prime essence again. And we may do that every few weeks, we may do that every few months, we may do that every few years. It depends entirely on the being. But as we go through these recalibrations, we maintain the peace with which we want to live, the love in which we've met ourselves and continue to meet the world. So that was one of the things that struck me as the most bountiful and beautiful. And it wasn't a technological event. It was a natural event. We went and lay on what looked like, and I could be completely using the wrong word when I say this, but it looked like a crystal bed, and it looked like the crystal was made of amethyst. It looked completely raw and natural. It wasn't in a clinic. It wasn't what we would think of as technology. It was just this breathtakingly beautiful scene of nature. You work with a healer. You're restored to your optimum. And that's what healing looks like in our Eden realm. The people that you interact with, they have no need, no reason, no recourse to correct you. And that's very different to the way that we've been living in this world. We've been living in this world with so much projection and judgment from others. And there will be people who say, oh, I don't mind. I don't listen to other people's opinions of me. I hear that, and I love and I respect that. But what happens when there are no judgments? There just aren't any judgments that you have to deflect. There is just acceptance. You don't have to explain yourself in order to be seen or loved or understood. So the way in which you are relating to yourself, your fellow humans, your surrounding world is with such seamlessness, with such a sense of I am seen, I am known, I am totally understood. You never have to fight to get your opinion across, and it wouldn't dawn on you to want to correct anybody else. As much as nobody else is going to correct you, somebody else, what they're doing on their path, if it deviates from your truth, that's their truth. That's their path. It can only lead to light. There is no rhyme or reason to stop or hinder or impede anybody else. So look at how very different relationships are. Look at how very different healing is. And of course, in that world, there is only abundance. There is so much abundance that the idea of counting it as we do now with a monetary system, it can't possibly sustain itself. It would just seem so unfathomable. It would be like having this magical apple tree that could only create more apples. Every time you take an apple, 10 more come. And then you take another apple and 10 more come. At some point, you're going to go, what am I counting all of these apples for? At some point, you're going to go, it doesn't matter how many apples there are, because no matter how many apples I take, that tree just keeps producing more and more and more. Abundance mindset interwoven into everything. And of course, obviously, galactic contact, of course. We interact with our galactic family as we interact with our human family. There wouldn't be a surge, there wouldn't be that emotional surge of, who are you? Where do you come from? Why are you here? Because when you operate at an intuitive, telepathic level, you've met and greeted the person that's about to come into your field days before they come into your field. And you already know them. And then you see them and you go, hey, there you are. Been expecting you. And the welcome mat is out. And what we know here in this realm is the highs and the lows of those big emotional surges. They're like fireworks going off. In Eden, we're emotional. Make no mistake, we're emotional. But it's not those extremes that we're familiar with here. It's like emotions come up and they fizzle and dissipate and dissolve for the next one to come up and fizzle and dissipate and dissolve, very much like the waves of the ocean. Ebb and flow. Calm and beautiful. From time to time, there may very well be an intense wave of emotion that just kind of like there might be a high tide and a low tide, or even a spring tide. This can happen, but it's not a definition of who we are. We don't wear our emotions as a sense of self, but rather as an energy we are traversing through in that moment, totally separate from your identity. So your sense of self is not interwoven into how you feel. How you feel is just something that passes through. It's an experience. So it's like you might taste lasagna, but you're not going to go, I am the lasagna. Even for us, that's very ridiculous. We know this is just an experience. I like it. I don't like it. I want something else. I want to stay here. Whatever it is, this is just something that I'm tasting. It's just an experience and it goes. Your sense of self is separate from the food that you're eating. It's just lasagna. That's what emotions are going to become lasagna. Let's put it that way. Your emotions are going to become the lasagna of life. It is just a temporary taste. It's a temporary moment and it's done. So I'm describing to you a world that for some people they may say, oh, Kerry, that sounds very fantastical. Yeah, because we are. We are utterly fantastical. We just forgot.
And it is a beautiful vision of this new realm that is emerging within us. And I say within us because it's not an external thing, as you've mentioned. But the greatest question that you've been asked, or the most common question, is when Ascension. Oh, yeah. And I'm not going to ask you, let's put a date on it. Let's say when. But what determines whether we live this realm in our lifetime, in this lifetime? Depending, doesn't matter what generation we're in. We could be 80 years old right now. We could be 15 years old, 26, whatever it is. What determines if we get to experience this realm now in this lifetime?
There's a couple of answers. The first answer is God, and I'll explain to you why that's the first answer that comes. Because this realm, which we can call the false matrix, is being called, has been called back home. That is what this 12,000-year culmination cycle is, this grand shift of all of the ages. No ordinary shift, the grand shift of all of the ages. This is a clarion call put out by source creator consciousness that says, we're done with that game. We're done with that field. We're done with those permissions. It's over now. And I'm calling this earth back to her place as Eden, back to the divine matrix that she comes from. And those upon earth may come with if they choose. So how do I know it happens in this lifetime? Because this is what is ordained. It's not even up to you and me. I hope this happens in this lifetime. That is already done. That calling has already been called. That signal has been sounded. We are just in response to that signal. And earth and nature is, of course, also responding to that signal. But deeper than that, what determines things like timing? What determines things like, will I be chosen? Because I think that's a very important word. A lot of people have this word, am I going to be chosen or left behind? Am I the chosen? Whatever they are, these special kids that God favors, the chosen. There have been multiple failed ascension attempts in our lifetime already. And I'll give you an example. 2012, that was a failed ascension attempt. 2016, failed ascension attempt. 2023, a failed ascension attempt. Now, you might hear this and go, damn, we are not doing well. We seem to be racking up the failures.
Fourth time's the charm.
Yeah. And I would say to you, this is exactly necessary. There was no ways we were going to get it right on the first try. There was no ways. We weren't ready. We couldn't understand the level of responsibility, personal responsibility that we had to step into. We couldn't fathom the amounts of light we had to first integrate at the physical level and what we'd need to go through in order to go through this shift and keep the body intact. Because some shifts are so big that the body cannot remain intact, and we never wanted that. What would the point be? We've come across so many stars. We've come across so many galaxies, and some of us even across different universes to be here now to walk through this grand shift of the ages. And we wanted to do it alive. We didn't want to drop the body in order to do this. So those previous failed ascension attempts, we could think of them as practice rounds. Very necessary, very important practice rounds. And listen, maybe we're going to have a couple more, and if we do, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't make us less, it makes us more. We need that experience. It's just a conditioning of the false matrix that says failure is bad. In the divine matrix, failure is necessary and important, and it's revered. It's like if you were to fail, you'd be congratulated. Like, congratulations, you're growing. Congratulations, you're trying. This is amazing. So that's what our failures have been. They've been us learning so that we're ready for the next one. So the reason I share that is to show that we're ready. It's just, can the human bodies make the shift without essentially dying at the ascension point? We never wanted that. We want to carry the body over. We want to have the experience of maintaining the memory of the 3D false matrix reality in the same body as the 5D divine matrix reality. And the reason why we want to do this as light workers is this has been collectively something that we chose as a soul group. That's what the light workers are. We are a soul group pioneering a pathway, doing something that's never been done before. In previous big ascension events like the one that we're undertaking, you wouldn't do it in the same body. You simply wouldn't. You would have to drop the body. The body couldn't. How can you get a body to sustain what we're about to sustain? It's unprecedented, it's miraculous, and it's just not something that's ever been done. This is not the ordinary or the normal. This is so outside the realm of what has been done and what is known for an ascension event of this nature. Normally, when a false matrix dissolves, which in itself is a rare event, all the bodies affiliated with that false matrix dissolve at the point of the false matrix, meaning they die at that point and then they're reborn into a 5D new world. We wanted the thrill. Such overachievers. That's what we are. We're such insane, crazy overachievers because look at the goal. The goal was, no, I'm not doing it the way it's been done before. This is an extraordinary life, and I'm going to walk through in a completely extraordinary way. So don't underestimate what it takes to get this vehicle that's been programmed to respond to the false matrix to operate in the divine matrix. That is a cellular restructuring, literally, of the most divine order. We have to get the hell out of our own way. That's what it takes. If you were to say to me, okay, Kerry, what does it take? That. It takes us getting out of our own way to the extent that the ego no longer dominates and drives and chooses the path, but that the light or the higher self does. And that's what our everyday life is. Every day we're learning to do that more. Every day we're being shown in our own personal capacity, in our own personal lives, personal circumstances. This is how not to do it. This is how else to do it. This is where it feels constrictive. That's where it feels expansive. This is where you doubt yourself. That's where you don't. So we're being guided without even realizing that we are. It's the most arrogant thing to assume that we're abandoned, here alone, left to our own devices. We are anything but. Each one of us has a legion, an absolute legion of light workers, cosmic family, surrounding us and walking this journey home with us. We are in an era right now, which is the era of 2025 to 2032. That's one era. In the same way that time, pretty much from the last 12,000 year cycle to 2012, was one era. That's a lot of time. To now, this tiny short little period, 2025 to 2032, this is like not even a blip on the map. But this is where we sharpen our skills. Ascension may happen. It's not off the cards within this era, and it may happen afterwards. Would it happen, however, after 2040 or somewhere around 2040 to 2045? I can't give you a definitive deadline on this, but I would say to you, it's highly unlikely that ascension happens after that period of 2040 to 2045. The reason being, the road that the false matrix is walking, like where the false matrix is leading to, is a reality that is not permissioned. And that's the reality where AI takes over and we become enslaved to it, and we become essentially biological hybrids with artificial intelligence instead of having AI, which is great. Many higher civilizations do, an AI companion. Okay, that would be more of a 5D possibility. There is the possibility, and it comes in there around about 2040. Could be a bit before, could be a bit after. That's where humanity has reached a point of no return. And that is not permissioned. And that's why it's incredibly unlikely that ascension would take place in those years or after it. It's way more likely it would take place before 2040. Heck, it could take place in the next hour. You know? It's not...
We just look up, there's a great flash.
Exactly. That's what it is. It's a
Who
great
knows?
solar...
Caught live on screen.
Yeah, there it is. The Ascension televised.
That would be a good title.
Yeah.
It also sounds like, you know, we want our cake and eat it too, in the sense of going through this ascension and also bringing our body with us. And obviously, as you mentioned, it's going to be an evolution of the body. But why, as creator beings, is it so important for us to hold our bodies, our physical bodies, with us while going through this ascension?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, because what we wanted to do was hold the memory within us so that we could be like living libraries, living resources that could tell others from living experience from a 5D perspective. This is why the false matrix can never work anywhere else in the universe. We wanted to be spokespeople for that. We wanted to walk through the false matrix, ascend inside the false matrix, transcend into the divine matrix, so that now we've got that history and it's fresh. It's not like, oh, I'm tapping into a memory here. It's more like, no, I remember this. I remember, for example, living in my car, being out on the street, having a disease, all of these things, poverty, all of these things that will not be concepts in the divine matrix. We wanted to be a resource, and that's why the light workers collectively agreed to have this unprecedented event of taking the body, same body, into the 5D plane, so that we maintain the memory fully intact and can now become almost like we're the living experience of that realm. And as spokespeople who have walked through that, we get to share with others not just why the false matrix won't work elsewhere in the universe and prevent it from repopulating somewhere else, but also this is what it's like to have complete amnesia. Because you know what? The beings in the divine matrix have no idea. They have no. It's like this. You can read it in a book. This is what it's like to be born to a world where you can't remember who you are. You can read it in a book, but then you can live it. We've lived it. We're going to become the best advocates for the ascension process and what it entails and how we did it. That information is very valuable to those who populate the divine matrix. Through our teaching, it will prevent them from having to undergo the same kind of journeys that we've gone through. It will allow them, almost as if they're living through us, to undergo the journey for themselves so that they don't have to. So we're doing this as volunteers of the highest order. And those group of beings who I refer to as the light worker are exactly that, make no mistake. These are some of the most masterful beings. They may be undergoing the most dire of situations on this planet. They may be called bums. They may be called losers. They may be called stupid. They may be called by many, many names. But make no mistake, these are cosmic beings of the highest order. And every single one of them, whether they know it, but most of them don't, they are contributing to the collective ripple that we as light workers are holding, that allows for us to make this ascension in physical form. Because the earth's done it. This is a no-brainer. See, people often ask me, what if earth doesn't ascend? Oh, please. That's like saying, what if my next breath isn't there? It's so obvious the next breath is going to be there. It's so obvious the sun's going to come up tomorrow. It's so obvious that it's going to set today, because this is the cyclical nature of our reality. So earth ascends because it's the cyclical nature of what earth knows how to do. People also ask me the question, but what about my dogs? What about my cats? What about my animals? What about animals in general? What about my babies? What about my children? Anything that is a part of nature ascends effortlessly. Effortlessly. We're learning how to get back in touch with our nature. We're learning that right now so that we can ascend with everything else. But everything else will ascend. The planet, the plants, the animals, etc. The children, for those people that always ask me this question, the children tend to go with the parent who vibrates the loudest, the parent who vibrates the highest. That tends to be where the children go, but every family is unique. These destinations, as in 5D or the alternative planet that people will go to have another ascension round, we've already made these decisions at the soul level. We're just living it out and giving ourselves an option to change our mind, because there's always free will. So we're living out a soul directive with the variability to introduce some kind of free will, new trajectory, new decision. But ultimately, that's what it is. Every part of nature, though, knows exactly how to ascend, including our own true nature. That is the part of us that ascends. It's not our thoughts. It's not our brain. It's not our mental processing. We don't ascend because we affirm, I'm going to ascend, I'm going to ascend, watch me ascend. That's not how ascension works. It is a surrendering to the light that we are. And that's our nature. Our nature is that we're multidimensional light. Before we are thought, before we are words, we are light. Light first. When we return to the light that we are, from which the thoughts come, from which the words come, it's to return to that essence state. That's our nature. That's ascension. And that's ether.
If we were to leave behind a book of wisdom for the beings that will automatically be part of the divine matrix in the future, what could they learn from us specifically so that they can be equipped with that information to not make the mistakes that we made, but also ascend even higher?
It wouldn't be information in the way that we understand information, because we think information, we're thinking a book, we're thinking words, we're thinking writing something down. Give me a 10-point plan, for example. This is what the information would look like. Every single thing in creation, whether they're in the divine matrix or the false matrix, every single thing exists in multiple dimensions. When we can breathe light or bring light into the lowest of those dimensions, what it does is it moves upstream and it catapults the entire being. Almost you could think of it from the foundation up or from the ground up. So part of the learning, so to speak, that we're undergoing, it's not a mental realm learning, it's an energetic learning. And that is how to recalibrate at the densest level possible, the place where the confusion exists, the place where the distortion exists, because the distortion does not exist in the higher realms. The distortion exists in the lower realms. But because of that, and because everything is connected and you're multidimensional, there will be a part of you at the highest dimensional octaves that can't move beyond where that part of you is. So I want to give you an example, and this is just a metaphorical example. Imagine that there are 100 dimensions. I know that's difficult because people say, oh, there's only 12 or 15 or whatever number we give to it. Just imagine that there are 100 dimensions, and imagine, because it's easy to illustrate it this way. Imagine that the 100th dimension is God's source creator consciousness. You're multidimensional, so you exist from the first to the 99th dimension as an individuated being. But if there are distortions in the lower self, you can't go beyond 99. And that place that you've reached at 99 is as far as you can go. You can't expand beyond that. And Emilio, that's why we've come here. We've come here so that we can not learn and grow because we're stupid little things that keep getting life wrong, and now we've got to leave a book of lessons for others. That's not it at all. What we've come is, this is the key code that we hold that enabled us to correct the distortions at the base level, which now ripples upstream into level 99, and therefore God's source creator consciousness expands exponentially and far beyond anything that could previously have been attained before. So what are we doing? We're leaving a map a cosmic key code for how Source is expanding itself through us now. And it would be written in the language of light. It wouldn't be written in words. And our bodies would be the holders, the vessels of that wisdom. And our children that come from us would hold and embody the same wisdom in them, because they would hold the same correction in them that we've come in here to correct. So I laughingly called us earlier overachievers. But we well and truly are, because instead of coming down to the base level, if we were to use that very simplistic explanation that I gave you of imagining that there's 100 dimensions and we came to number one, we didn't. The false matrix is -1. we came to less than a starting point, because here everything is inverted. Here the distortions are rampant. That's the very nature of the false matrix, is that everything is upside down. So our sense was, if we can come in to the most corrupt, to the most distorted field, and bring our correction in there, firstly, we correct all false matrices then. Our ripple will completely obliterate the potential of all future false matrices, because that much light brought into a false matrix would do exactly that. And that's also one of the reasons, just by the way, why we chose to have our bodies intact in the false matrix and ascend consciously in body into the next realm from the seat. Because imagine it as a shockwave through the false matrix that so completely dissolves the false matrix that there is no possibility of it ever being restructured at any other part of this universe or any other universe. That's one of the reasons that we're doing this as well. But that shockwave not only travels horizontally where it corrects the false matrix, it also travels vertically back up to God's source creator consciousness. So we're doing something so far beyond our understanding here. We're doing something that affects the supreme creator of all that is. In fact, we are the supreme creator of all that is, coming into our most distorted experience imaginable, so that we can bring our alignment here.
You've said that there are many purposely laid traps upon the spiritual seeker's path to prevent us from attaining the true connection to divinity and keep us lost in the false matrix. And you brought up the word distortion, maybe distractions as well. What are some of those that you would like to reveal in that case to lead people back to that true connection of divinity and not get lost on the path?
When you understand that ether is something that can't be touched, you can't necessarily pick it up and hold it and describe it. Like, for example, in previous generations, we've had wars, and the soldiers on the battlefield held a gun, something physical, something tangible. And they saw battle at the very physical, tangible, concrete level taking place. We're living through a spiritual war right now, but we can't see it because it's an etheric war. People are so busy looking for the next world war. Is it going to be a third world war? Forgetting that we're in it right now. We've been in it for many years already. It's just invisible. It's invisible because this is an etheric war. It's a war for your consciousness. And who are the players in this war? The false matrix, specifically the archons of the false matrix, attempting to thwart ascension. Because look at what I described. If we ascend, what happens to the false matrix? It is obliterated to the point that there is no possible way it can ever restructure itself. That is not just an end, that is the end of all ends. So the spiritual war that we're in is the false matrix fighting for its life, and us, the light workers, holding our light and empowering ourselves to transcend the false matrix in the manner that I've described. And every single day, we're at war when we pick up our phone and we're scrolling mindlessly on social media, and we're letting our thoughts, because it's everything invisible. Can you touch your thought? Can you hold your thought? No. So thoughts are a big, maybe the biggest part of the spiritual warfare that I'm describing. And that's the ammunition of the battlefield. People, number one, don't have sovereignty, authority, and dominion or jurisdiction over their own thoughts. A lot of the time, people think thoughts that don't originate with them, but they don't know that because the thoughts are in their head. So they assume because the thoughts are in my head, the thoughts must come from me, right? They're even in my voice for some people who think with sound. They'll even hear the sound of their own voice talking to them. So it's very convincing to say, well, these are my thoughts. But a lot of the time, we're susceptible to the frequency that translates into those thoughts. And it's the frequency of the manipulation. It's the frequency of the false matrix and the distortions of the false matrix and the entities of the false matrix. We have very little sovereignty inside our own mind. We actually have to allow ourselves, and this is where we win, so to speak. We have to allow ourselves to move beyond the mental realm, which is to say beyond thought, into being. Then we've won. And then we realize, oh wow, I've left the battlefield. I'm not even in a war anymore. I'm in peace. I've got it. I can watch the war going on around me, but I'm not just in peace. I am peace itself. I am peace. That's when we say things like, oh, there we go. I am the change. I am the love. I am the truth. It's because we learn to be the things that we wish to be instead of thinking the things that we wish to be. Because everything that we bring to ourselves, because we've thought it into manifestation, can only be perceived through the mental realm. So look, and this is what I'm showing you here is one of the biggest cons in the spiritual community. One of those plans, those purposeful traps to ensnare humanity and to keep them in the construct of the false matrix was to bring their spirituality into the false matrix and to teach them to think their way through their spiritual journey. So a lot of spiritual seekers became extremely dependent on words and thoughts, and they believed that that was going to navigate them to higher realms, when in fact it will navigate them to the mental realm, but a higher octave of the mental realm. It's still the same prison cell. It's just that you're hovering above, looking down, imagining that that's enlightenment, but it's still contained in the same tiny space that the mental realm is. But when you dare to let yourself feel what you think, and then eventually to just feel what you feel, then you've shifted paradigms. Then you've dropped out of the control of the false matrix and the mental realm, and now you're operating in the jurisdiction of the divine matrix. So the truth, therefore, is that we can be in the divine matrix whilst still living in the false matrix. And that's how we undo the false matrix itself, by being the truth inside of it until it gets to the point where it can only collapse. We didn't ever have to collapse the false matrix. That was not our job. That was not what we signed up for. We signed up to bring the light here. The light was always going to do the job for us. We never had to go to war, so to speak, with the false matrix or even engage with that spiritual battle. We had to become the peace, not just the peacekeepers, but the peace itself. And that was the undoing of the fabric of the false matrix. So those purposeful plans are so bountiful and so prolific And they don't just exist within the spiritual community. They're everywhere. They're in the wellness community, the health community, the physical fitness community, schooling, education. Boy, oh boy. Name a sect of society and I will show you the places where people are thinking their way through life. And most people will say, but Kerry, how else are we supposed to be? Because it's all they know. It's all that they can conceive of life being. It can only be thought, right? No. We are so much more than thought. All that thought does is it offers the ability to narrate the experience that we're having. But if we go to the source of who we are, we go to the source of life itself, we realize God doesn't speak in words. My higher self doesn't even speak in English or whatever your home language is. It speaks in love. It speaks in light. That's my true language. And it's a state of being, not a concept. And when we shift into that ability to experience ourselves as a being instead of a thinker, thinking about being, but one who is experiencing being, then we've got it. Then we've got what we came here to be, and we're being what we came here to be. And even if you or me or the person listening, even if you're the only one doing it, that's enough. That's enough. Everybody else is a bonus. One person is enough to undo the entire false matrix. But we brought in millions of us because we brought in reinforcements, because we didn't think that doing it alone was viable. Clever move. I agree with that. We do need to look at this beautiful podcast. Look at how we can touch each other's hearts. Look at how we can remind each other that we're all walking each other home. That's what we're doing. We're not carrying each other home. We're keeping each other company on the journey home. And I think we're pretty good company, if I say so myself.
You've said that once we regain our connection to home or the true self, our next step is to bring home here.
Yeah.
So in that process of the next step of bringing home here, how do you see humanity bringing all of that here right now and taking power back over not only our thoughts, but our being, and allowing the home that we belong to merge with us?
The first thing that it's going to take is practice. And I always tell my online community this because, I love dealing with them and hearing their frustrations, because their frustrations are it's like they give voice to the human journey, and they say things to me like, Kerry, I don't get it. And I'm trying so hard and I'm stuck in my head, or whatever it might be. And I say to them, listen, if I went to gym today, Emilio, especially with somebody as young and fit and flexible and healthy as you, I'd feel like a nincompoop. I'd feel like, oh my God, I can't keep up with Emilio. I'm not as fit. Look at him on the treadmill. Look at the weights he's lifting, whatever it might be. And you would probably say to me, Kerry, just practice. Just come back tomorrow. Just practice. And I would say, damn, that's good advice. And I could then walk away and feel sorry for myself. And I could be a victim. And I could say in my victimhood, look at that person. Look at Emilio. Look at the next person. Look at them. They're so good. They're so brilliant. Or I could just be powerful and say, listen, I feel foolish and I'm getting it wrong and I'm fumbling and I'm stumbling, but I'm going to show up tomorrow and I'm going to just try again. And I probably will fail, but I'll try again and again and again. So the bottom line is we've got to become very unafraid of failure, which is difficult because the false matrix taught us not to fail. It taught us that our value is only acknowledged if we're successful. Failures don't have value. That's what we learned. It's not the truth. The truth is the exact opposite. Your failures add to your value. They are the pathway to your success. So what will it take? It will take devotion, practice, patience, And this is what I said to a group that I was teaching the other day. I said to them, imagine that you could write a list, and on that list, you could detail everything you wish to have either in a best friend or in a lover. And it would be things like, I want somebody to see me. I want somebody to love me unconditionally. I want somebody to accept me. I want somebody to not judge me. I want somebody to back me up, be in my corner. I want somebody to not give up on me. I want somebody to see the best in me, even when I am the worst of me. So you make that list and then be the list. Be the list for yourself. Be the lover that you wish or the friend that you wish to have. And that's the ticket to success on your spiritual journey. Now you're going to see, where was I lacking? Was I maybe not devoted to myself? Was I maybe impatient with myself? Then you become that version of you that you wish to be loved by. And you love yourself in that manner. And then you watch how deep your meditations take you. And that would be a critical point of this evolutionary process. Spend time with you. Because there are a lot of people willing to spend money on others or even themselves, but not time. We need to be able to spend time on ourselves, with ourselves. And meditation is not the only way, but it's a great way. There's also breath work. There's also just sitting in stillness. There's multiple avenues here. But energy work that requires you to invest and show up for you, that is what elevates you. That is what supports your journey home. And your journey home is, of course, a journey into you. And remember that we've lived in a world that's been so dependent on how other people will perceive us, that we're going to now be asked to let go of our attachment to that and concern ourselves with, how do I perceive myself? How do I feel to myself? We've got to make important what we were conditioned to see as unimportant. How many people do you know wave their hands when they say, oh, I'm not feeling well today, I have a sore back, but it doesn't matter, it's not important. People tend to have this relationship with themselves wherein they dismiss themselves. Now, instead of dismissing, we have to really come closer and meet ourselves where we are and be very unafraid of where we are. Be very unafraid of the depth that awaits us there, the truth that awaits us there. Because it's not a big scary monster out to get you. It is a cosmic being of love that's trying to love you. That's what we've been running away from. That's the self that we've been evading and avoiding. It is, in fact, love, not pain, not trauma, that we've been so afraid of being in the presence of. Because when we allow ourselves to be in the presence of love, we are stripped down to the pure essence of who we are. And that is the death of the ego. And we don't like death. And we don't know ourselves as anything other than the ego. So we don't want to lose the only self that we know. So we're avoiding, we don't do this at the conscious level. Nobody you know is going to walk around and go, oh, I'm avoiding love today, boy. I just don't want to be loved right now because I don't want to be seen. We don't even understand that this is what we're doing. We're so unconscious of our unconsciousness that these things totally bypass our mind, and we concern ourselves with all the trappings of that mental realm. And there it is. There's the answer. There's the journey home. Be with you, and don't for a moment think that journey is going to be so scary, because people say this. When I say to them, oh, baby, you got healing to do, they say, yeah, it's going to be really difficult. And I say, no, being unhealed is really difficult. Being unwhole, that is beyond really difficult. That's hell. That is the definition of hell. Hell is to be separate from yourself. Heaven is to be in union with yourself. So when I say to people, this is what healing is, and they say to me, oh, it's going to be so difficult, it's going to be so hard, I got to feel all my feelings that I've suppressed. That's a slice of pie, it's a piece of cake, it's a walk in the park compared to the pain that we've lived in, which is the pain of separation from the true self. That was torturous. And every day that we choose to remain in that torture because we think it's safe, because we think it's comfortable, because that's the known, is another day in hell. Healing is our return to heaven. Maybe it's clumsy and uncomfortable, and maybe we will face the things that we once avoided, which includes love, which includes divinity, which includes our celestial rekindling of the flame of infinite wisdom and love that we truly are. So bringing home here is not just our purpose, it's also our birthright. This is the great exhale. Kind of like we've been holding our breath for a very long time and we get to go, home. You know, when you're at home and you just sit your bum down in a chair, that's your chair. And it's the most comfortable chair in the world. It can be worn, it can be whatever it is, but there's that gorgeous feeling of home. That's what it feels like when we bring home here. Finally. And here I was fighting this. What madness. We will all realize that. We will all realize that actually we were fighting ourselves. Actually, the ego was fighting for its survival and we were playing into it, but we didn't know. We didn't have the wisdom to see that. We will, in hindsight, understand that that's the journey that we're undertaking right now.
If we rush ascension, what do we miss?
Everything. Probably ascension. Probably ascension itself. If we were given a deadline, and this is why there's never a deadline, because like we spoke about it earlier, people always ask, when's it going to happen? And they're relentless. They want a date and a time. And of course there isn't one. And the reason that there isn't one is not even because I'm being elusive and secretive and I don't want to tell you, but I really know. No, guys, I truly, really, honest to goodness, I do not know. And none of us are meant to, because ascension is this living field of energy and it comes into form and then it's malleable. It remolds itself. It reshapes itself every second. Think of that. It's this continually dynamic, evolving field of consciousness. So you might look at it today and say, well, it looks like ascension is maybe 2 years away. You might look at it tomorrow or even later on this afternoon and say, holy heck, it looks like it's 10 years away. And then you look at it again and say, but it looks like it's tomorrow afternoon. This is where we're living. This is the field that we're living in. It's continually morphing. And as we go through this process, we're going to realize how beautiful it actually is to just be here without a stopwatch, to drop that rush. Because the rush comes from the mental realm. That's the false matrix responding to ascension. That's like us trying to ascend from inside the prison cell of the mind, the prison of the false matrix, where we want everything now, because we don't want to go through the journey because we think the journey is going to be painful. If we try to rush ascension, and let's just say now we had a date and we try to meet that date, push to get to that date, I can guarantee you that's a failed ascension, because now we're going to put pressure on ourselves. We're going to put expectation on ourselves. We're going to put unfair targets on ourselves. Can you imagine? Let's just say ascension's in a month's time. There's going to be people with big charts on their big diagrams on their wall. Okay, I've got to resolve my mother issues by tomorrow, my father issues by next week. I mean, we would just put ourselves in such pandemonium. The day that ascension happens, however, you still won't feel ready. You still won't feel ready. You'll just be ready enough. It's like To those who are listening and maybe they're moms and maybe they've had the blessing of having given birth before, you will know this. Your baby will come at the most inconvenient time imaginable. They don't come when you want them. They don't come when you expect them. They hardly ever come in a decent waking hour. Somehow they all come at 3 a.m. where everything is inconvenient and upside down, because this is the nature of life. When life comes through you, it comes through you as it comes. But you're not going to say, oh, I'm ready. And I think a lot of people have that expectation that they're going to be ready. No, you're not. You're just going to be ready enough, which means able to accept light in your body without fighting against it. And every day is your training ground. But no, we don't want to rush this. We actually want to get to a place where we say, it can come tomorrow or 10 years' time. I'm cool. I'm in peace. I don't need Ascension to make me more peaceful. When we get to that point, we've pretty much made it. And there are people, Emilio, there are people, maybe there's some of them listening. There are people who already live like that, who already live in that, doesn't matter when it happens because I am the love, I am the peace. And everybody else is just in the process of getting there. Like going to the gym, you're in the process of becoming the fit, fine version of you that you know that you can be. That's great. We're all in the process, but you can't rush this, because like going to gym, you're going to tear a muscle. You're going to land up doing something stupid. Just let it happen as it unfolds. Your brain can't dictate your ascension journey, and it's going, I promise you it's going to try to. I promise you it's going to try. It's going to say, this is what you got to do. It's going to say, you're failing. You're doing it wrong. You're supposed to be better now. You're not supposed to think about those old things. You're supposed to have given up the story. That's your brain getting involved. And when you hear those thoughts, you just got to go, oh, sweet. Oh, cute. Look at my brain trying to run the ascension journey. You can't do that, my precious brain. Thanks for trying. This isn't your domain. Just move into the background of my life where you belong, where you're very important. Thank you very much. My brain is super, super, super important. It can add things up and make logical sense of me. I need my brain. But my being is the part of me that ascends. And the more I can surrender into the beingness, the easier I make that journey. And I want the journey to be beautiful, not rushed. I want the journey to be blissful, not this blizzard of chaos and performance anxiety. The moment we realize that ascension is inevitable, I think we also lose that rush. And another thing that really helps, just by the way, is connect with a part of you that has already ascended. Because in the same way that Eden, true earth, already exists, the ascend itself also already exists, and you can absolutely connect with that now. Then the more you lose that rush, the easier you're going to make the coming days, years, weeks, whatever it is.
Yeah. And you were also saying there that, if we want to get to ascension, there may be a misconception of wanting to resolve all our traumas, our karma, and do all these things. And we've talked a lot about light, not so much about the darkness. And there's a quote of yours that I pulled up that is, darkness is simply light that is disowned, that is unclaimed. And when it's reclaimed, it becomes light. So for that misconception of in ascension, we can't take with us our darkness, what would you say to that?
There we go. There's the definition of hell. Remember, I said hell is separation. And when we try to separate ourselves from our pain, from our trauma, from the struggle that we've been through because it's bad, what we're doing through that judgment and self-created separation, what we're doing is gluing ourselves to the very thing that we so don't want to be in. When we allow it to be where it is, what it is, how it is, In other words, yeah, this happened. I met this person, they hurt me. I had this experience, it traumatized me. It happened. That is not me saying, I want more of it. That is not me saying, I like it. That is not me saying, bring it on, baby. Let's delve into the depth of darkness and stay there. That is simply me not fighting. And the moment I drop the fight, I'm in a state of being called acceptance. And the more unconditional my acceptance can be, the more unconditional my wholeness can be, the more unconditional my love can be, the more unconditional my return to self can be, the more I find myself back in heaven instead of walking the streets of hell, which is the world of separation. So your darkness, essentially, the moment you stop fighting it, hating it, judging it, and you accept it is. It just is. That's a very authentic truth. Be in that authenticity, not perfection. Do not aim to be fully resolved and fully perfect. Aim to be fully authentic, fully real, fully available to the experiences you've had, able to meet them fully. And when this occurs, you're dissolving the darkness into the light. And that's our job. Our job is not to ward off the darkness, but to dissolve it. We're alchemists, and that's what an alchemist does. An alchemist doesn't reject darkness and say, you're bad. An alchemist says, you're energy. All I have to do is reconfigure you by being the light in your presence, not being resistance in your presence, because if I am, I'm actually going to feed the darkness. If I resist it, I feed it and I fuel it. If I accept it, I neutralize it. And in that neutrality, I reconfigure it into light. That's our power as alchemists, and that's our truth. We are everyday alchemists. We just imagined that we had no right to be that powerful and that fantastical, but that's what we are. Reality literally shapes itself around us, light and dark, shapes itself around us in response to our instruction, and our state of being is the instruction.
By the end of a lot of your YouTube videos, you do something that you call a love activation from your heart. And I was wondering, as we bring this beautiful transmission to a close, we also do have some final questions at the end, but I'm wondering if we can tie all of this, because it's been a lot of information from your heart, and if we can really integrate it with the love activations that you like to bring through, we're here for it.
Oh yeah, baby. I love these. Now we're talking Kerry's language. This is what I really love. So there's absolutely, as I do this love activation, before I start, let me say this. There's nothing for you to do. There's nothing for you to think. There's no one for you to be. There's nothing to hold on to. There's no other time that you're meant to be in, no other state that you're meant to find yourself in. Just here, just as you are, so perfectly as you are. Be there. And then when you say to me, okay, Kerry, okay, I'm there. Be there more. And then you're going to realize, what? There was more of my own authenticity that I could pull in that I didn't even recognize was there. There's more of me that can meet this moment. It was just distracted in places that I was totally unaware of. So you can bring all of you into the now as you are, exactly, precisely, and only as you exactly are. Then you hear these very simple words from my heart. all the way. Stop what you're doing and let it in. All the way into yours. Let love meet you. And there's a very simple word. And I don't even want you to say the word, I want you to feel the word. And the word is yes. It's a feeling. Yes is a feeling. It's a feeling of openness. And what you're saying yes to is you. So allow yourself just to feel that yes. Yes to you being loved. Yes to you being breathed by love. Yes to you being seen by love. Yes to love living inside of you. Because it is you. This is not Kerry's love. This is the universe's love. And this is you remembering what it is to be loved. And then you realize a fundamental truth, and that is, wow. I was never here to give light. I was here to receive it. Because in receiving it, you become it. And in becoming it, just like you are right now, you ripple. You glow, you resonate, you radiate. Without effort. You ripple that love through all dimensions. All the way back to source. You ripple the love from where you are through every dimension, and you don't have to direct it and do it and push the love. You just observe. Wow, that's what love does. Because it is. Love is a wavelength of light. That is unstoppable, unmeasurable, unquantifiable, infinite. And it never ends. Love has no beginning and no end. And it lives in your breath right now. And every breath that you will ever take will forever be infused with the love that you've breathed in. Because this is what you are. This is who you are. This is your truth. And I thank you for letting me journey this truth with you.
Talk about coming home.
Exactly. Mm.
And what I felt there was, it's not just you and me doing this right now. There are so many others that are participating in this activation of love. And we're creating a grid of love that is anchoring that into the planet right now. So what we're doing here is really important. And that's why I felt called to invite you to bring us into that activation, because we're here to anchor that frequency. And I would love to know what others felt during that activation down in the comments. My heart is wide open. I'm coming back, coming back to the 4D, 5D. But Kerry, we end every episode with a segment called The Final Trio. And before that, I would love to give you the space to tell us where people can find you, connect with you, be part of your community. Where would you send people for that?
My website is the easiest place. There's lots of places to find me, but my website is the easiest, and that's kerryk.com. And it's K, like Kerry with a K, Kerry, kerryk.com. And there you'll find all the links to my social media. You'll find the link to my online community. And that's the real juice of what I've come here to give. It's in the online community. It's a weekly live that I do with my community. It's about an hour to an hour and a half. And it's this love activation that we just did now on steroids. So if you feel like you want to practice being at the gym, being at the gym of Ascension, then that's your gym. And you get access to the whole library of well over 200 calls, and every single one of them is infused with those kinds of activations, just in very different ways. So it's a little bit of teaching, a little bit of activation. But yeah, that's my offering to the world. So kerryk.com.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so people don't have to go on a scavenger hunt to find all that. All the links are in the description. And for the final trio, we personalize every single question to the guest for these. And they're a great way to wrap a tie around this beautiful conversation and integrate what we've learned, you know? So the first one I have for you is a little bit personal, if you are willing to go there, but it is, what part of you are you most proud to have reclaimed?
Oh, 1,000 answers. I've got to pick one. How do I pick one? Okay. My head just went with 1,000 different answers. There's 2 answers vying for a top spot right now, and I'm going to go with abundance.
Give us both.
Okay, cool. So abundance was the one that I started with because I've been super poor. I've been like if poverty was something that I could master, oh man, I don't want to brag, but I mastered it, man. I was homeless. I was an overachiever when it came to lack and poverty. I went into homelessness. I went into literally not having food, literally being hungry. I have known poverty extremely well. And I'm incredibly proud to be on the other side of that for many reasons, because I can show people through my own living legacy, through my own living example. This is not only possible, this is how you can do it. Become abundant inside your love, become abundant inside yourself. So that's one of the proudest things that I'm sitting here to tell you, that, yeah, this is so doable. I am a rags to riches story. And I love that story. The other thing that I've been able to reclaim is my relationship with my body. I grew up incredibly sick. And being incredibly sick, I was on so much medication. I would oftentimes come out of hospital. This was in my childhood. I would come out of hospital like what I called the Michelin Man, because I was swollen with steroids because my lungs couldn't stay open and I couldn't breathe without serious medical intervention. So I developed so much distortion from childhood around my body and what my body was meant to look like. I was teased at school. How can you not be when you look different to everybody else? And I am so proud to sit here and say to you, baby, my body's not perfect. And it's amazing. This is my ascension vehicle, not somebody else's body. This body that has been through so much, that has held so much tiredness and pain and disease and imperfection. This is my ascension vehicle. And I'm super proud. that that's my story and I've gotten to reclaim that. And I'm not speaking to you from a place of perfection and saying to you, this is where my journey ends and I'm totally perfect. I'm still in my journey, but I love where I am in my journey.
That's so beautiful to hear. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And if we could remember only one thing from this conversation a year from now, what do you pray it would be?
That you are ether, because you are spirit. And the journey that we are undergoing is the journey of you stepping into a higher version of your own ether, your own etheric self. Then you stop worrying so much about the physical. You stop worrying about the war that might be coming, all the physical level things. This is not how the world ends. The world doesn't end this time through flood, fire, and famine. The end and the beginning are based in ether. That doesn't mean that it won't be a massive event. It just means it won't be what you fear it will be. So pay more attention to who you are as energy, who you are as ether, and spend time in your own etheric or your own energetic field. Get to know who you are as energy. Get to know how you feel as energy. And just remember that this is me ascending through ether. And this is the world shutting down and reopening again, using ether as the element to facilitate that grand shift of the age.
I have a mentor that is getting me on a new style of meditation. That is, I used to meditate with the intention to go into the void, the blackness, the quantum field, whatever you want to call it. And this new version that I'm practicing now more is when I go into meditation is instead of me trying to dissolve the ego and go into the blackness, it's becoming the field and becoming the field of energy that I am. And my meditations have gone way deeper when I tune into the energy of who I am rather than just trying to enter a space or go somewhere or leave the body. It's a completely different experience. So I love that you brought that up.
And you have no idea how much you're serving humanity by doing that. You think this is just me. This is my meditation. You have no idea that in you doing what you describe, you are allowing, instead of directing from your mind with that setting of intention, you're allowing the field to reveal itself to you. That means you're not controlling through the brain. You're experiencing with the being. And that sends a ripple into the collective. And that amplifies the frequency of every light worker. So thank you for doing that, because you don't understand how powerful that is. And let everybody listening know the same. You don't know how powerful your impact is when you shift. Let's just say that that was your base resonance, whether it was good or bad according to you, satisfactory or unsatisfactory, whatever, doesn't matter. Just go a level beyond. Just go a step beyond where you were. That's the ripple. That's the shift, and it lights up for the collective.
Beautiful. This final one is, we're leaving behind a question for the people listening, the people that will tune in the future, in the present, wherever you are in your journey. What is the most loving question that we can ask ourselves in this moment of our global ascension?
Full circle moment. Let's end exactly where we began, but in an amplified state. The question is, how good can this get? And you don't know. You don't know. You have no idea. There is no way for your brain to compute, quantify, and answer that question. But ask it anyway, and then just sit in the field. Just sit in the field of potential that question creates. And it's exhilarating. Be there.
Exhale.
Yeah.
So it is, Kerry. Thank you so much. Literally every conversation with you is a portal to another dimension. I feel like we've traversed alternative realities and sent people and myself into a new direction, a new timeline. I just wanted to acknowledge you for your infinite wisdom, your love, your care, Kerry of humanity, carrying the torch. I appreciate you so much. And I can't wait to do this many more times in the future.
Thank you, my love. Thank you so much. And thanks everybody who's watching. I felt your presence. I felt you guys directing the flow of conversation. How beautiful. This was a team effort. This wasn't just you and me. This was a whole team of light workers coming together to ask the questions and hear their own answers.
Yeah. The Legion is here. The Legion is here.
100%. Yeah.